To me, it means considering a whole person as an individual with dignity, respect, consideration. If we're talking about dementia, that the person has a past and a present life. It's finding and looking for and considering the essence of a person. And in terms of dementia, an individual is not the disease, an individual is not a problem, and an individual, substitute person any way you like, is not a stereotype. So that's my definition.
It is really person-centeredness as well. It's putting the person, not the dementia, at the center. So often it's the reverse, you know, the person has to fit into the model rather than the model fitting into the person.
In the word personalisation, I think it should say, I am a person. Because I think so often I'm dealing with somebody in our group who is middle stage dementia, and his family have virtually taken him over, for want of a better word. He comes to us, he knows I deal with dementia, you know, people with dementia. He likes to come and talk to me. When things go wrong, he comes here and we advise him and we'll try and help him. But the family don't involve him. He is a person. We try and say to him, you are a person. Do, you know, try and say, I am a person and I'd like to have my say.
Beyond that, you can't have a system, and I know from personalisation in education, because it came in the early noughties, and there was a lot of fear amongst teachers that they were going to have to teach 30 different children, 30 different sets of learning. That isn't necessary, and that's not the way personalisation should be used. Personalisation means you are thinking of the person, you know the person, and you deliver something that works for that person, but it can be in a collective.
Interestingly enough, working with dementia, in fact, reinforces personalisation in a way which their treatment within, say, the health service or the social care system doesn't do, because in dementia, you've got to deal with the whole person in order to allow them to have some sort of quality of life, haven't you?
One thing we don't think about so much, I think, with people with dementia is the future. And not just the future that is now going to happen because they have a diagnosis of dementia. So that's really important that we actually understand what they, you know, someone wants. He was talking about the future that they had planned for their retirement. And he mentioned that the diagnosis that his wife received a couple of years ago, just at the beginning of lockdown, made him feel like his whole life had stopped. And it's occurred to me that part of personalisation is thinking about what someone would have hoped to have. And okay, that might not be possible, but what can we help people to put in place to replace what they would have done if the diagnosis hadn't happened? So that was one thought. The other one is relationships. And I think it's really important. We talk a lot about relationships, and I know Keith and Rosemary have had this about, you know, you lose that relationship with your husband and wife and you become carer and cared for often. I became mum's mum effectively. And she used to quite often say, but I'm the mum. To reinforce to me that I had to think about, I might act like her mother quite a lot of the time, but she actually is the mum. And so we used to look at, or I learned to look at the things that were important to her about being my mum, to protect me, to advise me, to teach me, to soothe me when I was upset. You know, she's done that all my life. And what could she carry on doing now with her dementia? And how did I help her do it? And I think that's quite important. We don't always think about that, of how we maintain relationships and what's important to the person about the relationships they had with the people around them, and what do they want to keep and not lose because of their dementia.
There are good days and bad days. And I think people forget that. We all have good days and bad days, but in dementia, they think the bad days aren't going to be replaced by good days. And I think it's very important to point that out.
It's training and input about how to how to recognize somebody as a person.
And if it's going to be successful, it should have a personal care plan, which should be formulated with the person. And if there is someone at home doing, you know, the family carer role, they should be involved in the care plan too.
I think this is the emphasis is on this integration between health and social care, but it's the need for the whole system to reach that point, because it's all very well for you or I or any other person doing caring or living with it, as Keith does, to have that on an individual basis, but we want it to be widespread, don't we?